Hello, my name is Alfie, and 6 months ago I ran and completed the Dragon's Back race, which is a 6-day ultra-marathon event in Wales. You run the length of the country from Conwy Castle to Cardiff Castle. Over the course of those 6 days, it contains some of the most brutal terrain and conditions you could possibly hope to find. I think it's surprised a lot of people from overseas, so from Europe and from America, people who hadn't been to Wales, sort of how bad it was. The mountains in Wales are not big, but they are tough. So I have come up with a list of 10 tips, I guess, which are on my phone, which is why I'm looking down. High production value here. 10 tips for runners who will be at the middle or back of the pack. So we're looking bottom half in general. I finished 112th, 113th. I can't remember. I finished towards the back. I'm going to defend myself and get defensive already. Towards the back is actually towards the front. 3/4 of the people who entered the race, there's 500 entries for the race. 3/4 of those didn't make the finish line. 100 didn't make the start line even, but 3/4 didn't make the finish line. So you have to be in the top sort of 25% to have a chance of finishing. But if you're like me, I finished at the back of those finishes. I was one of the strugglers. I got injured on day 3. I sprained my ankle and I ran through it for 3.5 days, but that isn't an excuse. I don't think it really slowed me down that much. It was just painful, but I don't think I was running it actually that much slower. I was and would have been in any circumstance one of the back runners. So if you're thinking you're one of the front runners, then there's no point in watching. If you think you're going to struggle or you're worried about struggling to finish the race, then this is for you. So I have 10 tips on basically what I would recommend if I was talking to myself from a year ago, things that you need to do in order to run a successful race, i.e. finishing, and things that I would recommend to myself if I were to do it again to improve my finishing position. Okay, so first of all, tip number one, easy one, not an easy one to actually do, but obvious one, go to Wales, recce the course. Go to Wales and recce the course. I think that's the most important one for me. These are in no particular order, but that is number one. You must have experienced Wales to know what it's like. There's a reason they train the British Army there. And if you speak to soldiers, which I have, they pretty much always say, once you've done Wales, you can do anywhere. The terrain is bad, the rocks are slippery, the mountains are steep, the weather is bad and it's changeable. Recce the course. I did a lot of recceing the course last year and it saved me. I'd have been so shocked if I turned up at that race and didn't know what was coming. Those mountains, if you look at the elevation profile on the GPX, it looks fine. It looks fine. It's not fine. They are hard. For anybody, even for the front runners, they are hard. Max King, who won it, hadn't recceed the course, which is incredible, but he made a whole thing about it, about how sort of shocked he was about how hard the terrain was. So recce the course if you can. If you can get there, recce the course. If you can't, then the next best thing is to watch videos about it. Yes, watch videos of people doing Crib Goch, Trevan, the Gleaders, the Renogs. The Renogs in particular aren't that fun. Probably fun on a nice hike out, but when you're racing it, no fun. Number 2, pretty obvious. This one's pretty obvious. Train for what you're doing. So you're doing ultra marathons, you're doing back-to-back days, you're doing hilly terrain, you're doing technical terrain. So train for what you're doing. There's no use in doing 5Ks in your local park. You've got to be running. I was running almost every day. Obviously rest is important, but you're teaching your body to run when you're tired. I did a lot of ultra marathon races in the lead up, some of which were in Wales. running that sort of level of distance in a day. I actually ran further than that level of distance in a day. I did a 100k race in the lead up, which is about 25k further than any day on the Dragon's Back. Teaching the legs to be going for that long, teaching the legs to get going again in the morning, teaching the legs to do that amount of elevation. It's obvious, train for what you're doing. Like, I'd imagine that's the one that sort of is the first and most simple one for people to get. It occurs to everybody, you have to train for the race that you're doing. But this race is unforgiving. You know, you can do a normal ultramarathon by training on the road and just like doing a few hill repeats or whatever. I don't think you can do the Dragon's Back by doing that. You have to really hone in your training on how hard this race is. Number 3, this is actually a bit counterintuitive or a bit hypocritical, considering what I just said. Cross-train, train for what you're not doing. No, I mean strength training in particular. Obviously cross-training can help in terms of like doing, I don't know, if you got on a bike, whatever, you're not putting so much strain on your skeleton, so you're less likely to get injured, whatever. But I'm talking more like strength training. And I really, really failed in this department. I did some strength training, but a lot of it was a bit vanity, a bit like trying to keep my shoulders square as I was getting thinner before the race. I should have worked really hard on strengthening my quads. And it's something I've done since, and in ultramarathon efforts since, I've struggled a lot less with the problems I had on the Dragon's Back. Effectively, when you run downhill, obviously the muscles will help you run, they'll help you get uphill, they help you climb, all very helpful. But when you run downhill, you batter your muscles. It's called an eccentric contraction, I think I read online. Basically, your muscle sort of tenses the wrong way, I guess. It's probably the best way I understand it. And it damages the muscle. Every time you run downhill, you damage your muscle. So if that muscle is not strong, you'll do a lot of damage very, very quickly, and you'll find it very, very hard to get down the hills. And being able to go down the hills quickly knock so much off your time. I was really, really struggling down the hills. And if you, obviously the uphills are hard because they're uphill. If you don't then get it back on the downhill, get anything back on the downhills are just as hard for you, you're going to have a tough race. And I did for that reason. I remember on day 5 evening, trying to get down off the Brecon Beacons and taking like miniature steps. I must have been going at, a kilometre every 40 minutes, trying to get down this hill. It was wet and it was scary and it was dark and I was tired. But, if I had a strength trainer, got a good base in my quads, I think I would have had a better race. So strength train, really important. Look at the phone again. Number 4 is kind of like train for all the stuff that you're not expecting to train for in the race. So like non-running stuff. I did a bit of this and I think it really helped me, but I wish I'd have done more and it might have helped me more. Things like you have to sleep on the floor in this race. You have to pack your bag at 6 o'clock in the morning. You have to eat out of a horrible little bowl with spork that you bought. You have to go to the toilet outside. You have to do a lot of these things, and like it's easy to say and easy to think that you could just do it in the moment, and you probably can. You probably get away with doing it, but these things can impact on you. Like packing my bag, I found really, really tough. You only get a certain amount of stuff. And I probably bought too much stuff. I bought loads of changes of clothes, which I just did not need. My personal hygiene went out the window within like 5 minutes of me getting there. I did not need 4 changes of clothes. Did not need 4 t-shirts. I needed 1, maybe 1. I actually don't think I did need 1. I think I needed none. Just sat in my kit, I was too tired. But packing my bag in the morning was a real struggle, and I managed to get it done every morning. But there's one day, day 5, where I finished late. Sorry, I started late. I finished late in the evening, and I also started late. If I'd have started 10 minutes later, If my bag would have been 10 minutes harder to pack, it was taking me 15 minutes to pack my bag properly. If it had taken me 25 minutes, I wouldn't have made the end of the race. And also, say train for non-running events, sleeping on the floor, getting up early, getting organised as soon as you wake up, packing the bag, all of these things, they can make you more comfortable during the race, less stress. B, they can actually save you time, which might make a difference. I made a cut-off by 10 minutes, which I easily could have failed on. And so speaking of that, that morning I was seeking medical attention. I got up early to go and seek medical attention on my feet and my ankle. And I was 25 minutes late out the door. And I finished with 10 minutes to spare. I didn't get up early enough. I thought I was getting up early enough. I didn't get up early enough. That there was already a queue at the med station. So training for these things, practicing for getting up early, getting organised, practicing the things that you don't normally do day to day, but you will need to do on the race is so, so important. Get used to running at night. Get used to moving around in the dark. Getting your head torch out, putting it on. I didn't do enough of that. I did some of it. But if you're at the back of the pack, there's a good chance, that you're going to be spending hours out in the dark. In tough terrain, when you're knackered. I'd recommend going out on like a lot of night trail runs. Learning where to put your feet, how to use the head torch properly, how to orient yourself when you can't see the next peak. It's really, really, really important. That's a pretty short one, really. To get used to moving around in the dark. Pack lots and lots and lots of food. However much food you think you need, pack more. If you think that you need a spare t-shirt, use that weight and that space on extra food. I had nowhere near enough food. I took loads. I took like loads and loads of gels, loads and loads of sweets, nuts, rice pudding for my my halfway resupply bag. I was having tins of rice pudding, and it wasn't enough. I was hungry the entire way around. I was eating breakfast, which the breakfast there was eggs, hash browns, vegan sausages, and baked beans, I think. And whenever you think about that as a breakfast, it was bloody delicious when you're that tired. I was eating it, like the whole lot. It's probably like a 750 calorie meal, with a milky tea with some sugar and a slice of orange. I'd be getting out the door, and within, I'm not joking, like 30 minutes, my stomach is rumbling, like growling at me. And I've got like gels and sweets and nuts and stuff. It's take more food. It's worth it. Pack more food. However much food you think you need more, like you're burning probably 6,000 calories a day, 5,000 or 6,000 calories a day on top of your maintenance calories. So let's say 8,000 calories per day. Obviously you can't eat that back, and you can buy some stuff along the way from shops, but you got to be making as much of it back as you can. It's not a weight loss exercise. It doesn't matter. You're going to lose some weight. You're not watching your figure. In fact, I had a tin of rice pudding at one of the halfway points, and one of the marshals said to me, "Are you eating the low-fat rice pudding?" I was like, "Oh yeah." Like, it was forced a habit. I bought the low-fat, healthy rice pudding. I guess to watch my figure. But what is the point? You're burning 50,000 calories that week. If you make it, you need more sugar, more fat, more carbs, more energy. It's really, really important. Pack more food. Number 7, this is a bit cheeky, right? But it's true. And I think this really helped me in the long run. It's hard for me to tell because I didn't do 2 races where I did one and didn't do the other. But I think this really helped me is I got faster at running. I know that sounds obvious, just get faster at running, you'll finish it faster. But obviously what I mean is that like my 5K time improved. Your 5K time and your time over 250 miles in Wales climbing up mountains, they're not that well connected, but actually they are. Being able to up your maximum level means that when you operate at that lower intensity, your lower intensity is higher. It all moves together. So I heard this from a coach when I first signed up for the race. He said, really focus on improving your sort of threshold. And I did. I dropped my 5K time down from about 21:30, I think, to about 19:30. So I took 2 minutes off my 5K time, which is a lot. And 19:30 it's a quick 5K, but it's not ludicrous. But yeah, like, I'm not saying that you need to have a sub 25K in the locker, because you're never gonna need to run at those paces. And if you do need to run at those paces, the chances are, you've already messed it up. But I feel like my ability to run faster gave me a higher ceiling, and then I was operating within that high ceiling, and I was able to sort of move quickly when it was flat and when it was desirable conditions, which are few and far between. But those minutes that you save, they come out later on. So I think, really working on getting faster is something that is kind of be overlooked, because you're constantly looking to train for what you're doing, like I said earlier. But it's easy to overlook it, but I don't think you should overlook it. Number 8, clock management. Learn clock management. You can only do this by racing, really, doing other races, figuring out, or giving yourself a cutoff time in a training run every now and then. Managing the clock is really, really important. Obviously, there's cutoffs at the end of each day. There's also cutoffs throughout the day. You need to make those cutoffs, otherwise you're disqualified. If you miss one, you're done. If you miss one by 1 second, you're done. And it's not as easy as going, well, I just need to go at this pace. Obviously, that is easy. If you're running a marathon, you know that you need to go at 5:40 per kilometer to do a sub 4. That's just mathematics. It's not quite so easy to do those maths when the terrain is slippery, when there's rocks, when there's changeable weather, whatever. Like, when you're out there in that race, it's not as easy to do those calculations. So you have to learn to do it by feel, to feel if you're behind or if you're ahead. Obviously, it helps when there are cutoffs throughout the day, because if you make a cutoff, say at lunchtime, the lunchtime cutoff, and you're 2 hours ahead of it, you know that you've got an easier day ahead. If you make one by 20 minutes, you know that you're going to be cutting it fine, because those cutoffs have been designed over a number of years of this race existing. So I think you only get that through experience, but you can create these conditions for yourself. So I've got to go up this hill, this hill, this hill, this hill, and this hill, and I need to be there by this time. And even if you fail in training, you're still teaching yourself to try and do these things, to try and work out how you can pace yourself. It is pacing yourself, as in making sure you're sort of like not going too hard in certain spots. But it's not like pacing yourself in a marathon, where pacing yourself in a marathon is don't get excited early doors. But you can get excited early doors with the Dragon's Back. If you're going out the door and you push it hard. Remember on day 3, I went out the door and I pushed Cat Area just really, really hard. And because I was worried about missing cutoffs, and I absolutely smashed it out the day in the morning. I had a relaxing sort of afternoon, and day 3 was actually probably the easiest and best day for me, because I managed the clock really, really well. Whereas on days 1, 2, and 5, I didn't manage the clock well. I ended up having to push it really, really hard over the Brecon Beacons on day 5, because I'd taken it too easy earlier in the day. And I say taking it easy, it wasn't easy. I was dead. I was really, really struggling, but I hadn't pushed myself hard enough early in the day, and I paid for it by having to run in the slip and slide in the dark in the Brecon Beacons. I fell over, I cut my knee, I hurt myself because I wasn't managing the clock properly, because I was tired. But learning to manage the clock properly, learning to do that maths in your head, really, really, really important. It let me down and saved me on different days. Come on, phone, open. Number 9, and it kind of follows on from the last one, is learn to stay calm. And this applies to a lot of stuff. Obviously, about the clock management. If something's not going quite your way, sometimes there is a chance to make it back. Sometimes you'll be on a part of the course, but you're moving really, really slowly, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. But then it all flattens out all of a sudden. Remember on day 2, we're coming down off the Renogs, and they are very steep and very slippery, and it's raining and it's getting dark. And I was looking at my watch, and the kilometre counter is just not going down. The time is going up, but the kilometre counter is just not going down. I'm just not moving very fast. But then all of a sudden, it flattens out. I knew this from the recce, but even so, it was still stressful. It flattens out into a nice forest track, and I was able to run it in with 25 minutes to spare, I think. But staying calm in those sort of scenarios, knowing that you're always going to feel better even when you feel bad. There's always going to be an easier part of the course when it gets hard, is really important. If you start to panic, you can A, get yourself hurt. It's not always very safe out there. And B, you can mess up a strategy. If you've got a strategy in mind, sort of stick to it. Panicking and trying to adopt a new strategy halfway through, there's being adaptable, and then there's being silly. I think staying calm is really, really important. I'm a calm person. I don't panic too much, and I had some really, really bad days during my recce's up in the mountains. I got stuck in 90-mile-an-hour winds while wearing all black up Carneth Llewellyn, which is the second tallest mountain in Wales. It was a very stressful day, but remained calm and managed to get myself to the end, even though my mum had called mountain rescue because I couldn't use my phone because it was wet. So I'm having to reason with mountain rescue on my way down this mountain. But I could have easily panicked there. I think had I panicked a lot, that could have been really, really dangerous. Probably maybe even to like a mortal level. But staying calm, pushing through to the end. I knew I couldn't alert anyone about how safe I was, but obviously the most important thing was that I reached the end and that I got myself there. Staying calm under that sort of pressure and teaching yourself to stay calm, as I kind of did on the fly in that moment, really helps you in the race. When things go bad, if you keep your cool, I think you've got a much better chance than if you're emotional. And it's easy to be calm when you're well fed and you're not tired. It's another thing to do it when you're out there in the mountains. So teaching yourself that skill is really, really important. And finally, and this, feeds into the last one again, get tough. Get tough. Do things deliberately to make you tougher. Obviously, that day up in the mountains at 90-mile-an-hour winds wearing black toughened me up a lot. I was soft when I went into it, and I was a lot tougher. I was tougher the day after than I was the day before. And this isn't some macho sort of thing. I'm not that sort of person. You can already tell by looking at me and hearing me talk. It's not about sort of like being powerful or there's no aggression to it. You've just got to be able to withstand what's going on around you. And that feeds into staying calm. If you're tough, you can stay calm. And I did things deliberately under control conditions to make me tough. Well, like I said earlier, when you're practicing for your kit, I slept on the floor in this very room a few times in the lead up to the race, just to toughen myself up about learning to sleep on the floor overnight, learning to sleep outside, learning to deal with different temperatures. I was worried about it being hot. As it happened, it rained all week, but the year before, it had been really hot that week and people really, really suffered in the heat. So during the few hot days we had last summer, I was wrapping myself up in head to toe in black gear and going out for runs to toughen myself up against that heat. This winter, I know we're post Dragon's Back now, but I'm carrying that on. I've been out running in my shorts and vest in the snow. Obviously, you're never going to have that experience during the race, but under those control conditions, you can heighten the difficulty to quite a high level. Obviously, you're going to be safe. You're going to be fine. You can stop it at any second. But you do toughen yourself up. And then when it comes to race day and these things happen organically, it gets cold, it gets windy, the conditions on the foot get bad, you fall over, you hurt yourself, you have to sleep on the floor. Whatever it is, you're equipped to deal with it because you've dealt with it before. In fact, you've probably dealt with something worse before under controlled conditions. It's really, really, really important. And it helps you stay calm. and then it helps you with your clock management. It helps you be fast because you can push through anything. It's really, 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 really important. So I think that was number 10. That was number 10. So there are 10 top tips if you're at the back or middle of the back of the pack runner. I'd imagine they can apply to some of the front of the pack runners, but who am I to lecture you? You're better than me. Or maybe as a general ultra / mountain running guide. But yeah, like I say, I'm not good enough at it to be lecturing people, but this is just based off my experience doing that particular race. If you haven't done it before, I think you should listen to me. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, I wouldn't mind if you subscribed, and yeah, I will catch you in a bit. Goodbye.